What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Finance with Parks. In today's video, we are going to kick off 2022 by reviewing the top 10 richest people on planet Earth. We're going to go over Forbes' live billionaire tracker list, talk about the names on this list, some things that I find interesting, where their wealth path has been going over the last year or so, and just all things billionaires. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. We talk all things personal finance. We're going to flip over here and just look. For those of you that don't know, Forbes actually does have a real-time billionaire tracker. And I don't think you have to be subscribed to Forbes. I have a subscription, but you can see here it has a running total day by day of the changes of, all the billionaires on planet Earth, basically, and their live updates of their net worth. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off. I think what's important from a personal finance standpoint, as far as understanding, this billionaire list goes, is just trying to take away things you can learn from them, right? How they amass their wealth, how they continue to amass their wealth, and, maybe some personality traits that these people have shown that you can help replicate. So let's go right ahead, jump into Elon Musk. It is crazy that he's the richest person on planet Earth because of what Tesla stock has done. And for those of you that aren't familiar, right, a lot of these wealthy people on here, most of them really, are because they own what we call shares or large pieces of publicly traded companies. So you've got Tesla, Amazon, Louis Vuitton, Microsoft. They own portions of those shares so that when the stock price starts trading higher, that means that the shares that they own are worth more. And when you have somebody like Elon Musk, I don't know what total percentage he has now, but let's say he has 25% of the outstanding Tesla shares, right? And Tesla is trading at $1,000 a share. Well, you take 25% of all that shares out there times $1,000, you're talking about a boatload of money to the tune of $268 billion. Is his current net worth. It went up a casual $4 billion today. Can you imagine that? A one-day change in your net worth is up $4.1 billion. Unbelievable, up 1.54%. So that's Elon. I think one thing that's key, you can see the source listed here, right? Tesla and SpaceX. One thing that I think is key about Elon to understand is that he made a lot of his money in PayPal. And I can't remember what PayPal sold for. I want to say it was like $1 billion split between a couple of their partners. Long story short, after the sale of PayPal, I don't even think Elon qualified as a billionaire. And he took almost all of that money that he ended up making from that initial sale and put it all into Tesla and into SpaceX and almost went bankrupt multiple times after he could have just, taken PayPal public and said, I'm done, right? I'm never going to work another day in my life. And just the risk factor to say, I'm not going to sit on 300 million or whatever it was, right? I'm going to invest all of that money into another company and see if we can make it happen. I mean, that dedication is incredible. It might be borderline stupid for some people from a risk aspect, but you got to give them credit for that. All right, number 2 on the list is still Jeff Bezos. Obviously, everyone knows about Amazon, right? Just a household name now. He's up 923 million today. He's slacking, didn't increase by $1 billion. But 188 billion here. One thing that I think that's key to highlight about Bezos and Amazon's development in general, now everyone knows Amazon is selling pretty much anything available, right? That you could purchase as a household item. But back in the day, they sold books. I mean, he literally started with selling online books, and remember, like the Kindles or the e-readers. I think they're still around. But the one thing I look at Bezos and think about is that he started with the baby steps, right? He didn't jump right to, we're going to try to control the entire internet, right, and sell everything there is. But slowly but surely started to become a major player in each market space until he expanded the business. And I think that's super impressive. I mean, to expand to books from, to go from the ebooks to the Kindles to Alexas to now what the powerhouse Amazon has become, you've got to give them a lot of kudos for that development. All right, this is the one I probably know the least about on this list because I'm not really a Louis Vuitton high-end brand guy. But he is at just an absurd number, 187 billion, right on Bezos's tail for number 2 here on the list. He was down $4 billion today, which I assume was a rough day from the stock market. And you can see LVMH is his main source from France. All right, number 4 on the list, Bill Gates. Bill has just been a staple of the billionaire list for, 20 years now, maybe 30 years? Ever since Microsoft came on to the forefront, he's just been one of the richest people ever. He's at $135 billion now. And keep in mind, Bill Gates got divorced. So some of this money is split between himself and Melinda, his ex-wife now. He's up $268 million today. So $135 billion. I mean, how do you spend all that in a lifetime? 66 years old now. And you will also see his partner in Microsoft, which is pretty crazy. Steve Ballmer cracks the top 10 as well. All right, we'll scroll down the list here just a little quicker now. Larry Ellison. So Larry Ellison is the CEO. It says software here, but he is the CEO of Oracle. The one probably most popular place that most people hear that name is the Oracle Arena, where the Warriors used to play. But a huge software company, 120 billion, and he's honestly been on this list for a long time too, since the software boom, right? When you had the Microsofts and the Oracles of the world really take off, already at 77. Larry Page, the Google creators on here, almost 120 billion. Google is also a really interesting story that I try to take, we'll call it, inspiration from, right? Where there was a lot of people out in the search engine space, whether it be Bing, whether it be Yahoo, that seemed like they had a head start on Google. And for Google to start out just as a search engine, there's actually a really famous quote from Warren Buffett talking about how him and Charlie Munger decided not to invest in Google early on because they just didn't see how it was going to make money. Why would a site that just returns search, results be able to be a big-time profitable company and compete with some of these huge other, giants, these tech giants like the Microsofts and the Oracles of the world? And Larry Page and Brin really just did an incredible job developing Google, not only from a software standpoint, but transitioning that into a money-making machine as well. So did a really good job with not only the development, but the business side and the execution. Mark Zuckerberg at number 7, 117.5 billion. Everyone knows Facebook still on there. I'm really surprised Zuckerberg has hung around this list as long as he has, because I don't use Facebook anymore, and maybe just because it's become the parents and grandparents site now, that they're still making money from advertisements and things like that. But to me, in my mind, it seems like, personally, I don't use Facebook anymore. I don't know if the younger generation uses Facebook outside of Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. There's just so many other options. But Zuckerberg's still up here, 118 billion if you round up. Just crazy number there, almost up 2 billion today. Another thing to highlight, he's only 37. It's ridiculous. Not even in his 40s. All right, 91. This is one I really want to talk about lessons learned from. Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett, 117 billion, up 359 today from Berkshire Hathaway. Incredible, he's 91. He still seems like he's, in really good shape for his age. He's done a great job taking care of himself. But one thing when I look at how Warren Buffett has made his money, and for those of you that don't know, he was an investor, right? So you have a lot of people on this list like Bezos, Musk, that created their own companies, that created Tesla and Amazon. And Warren Buffett was actually slightly different to where he was just investing in those companies. So he was buying stocks of really staples. He was not a risk-based person. Warren Buffett made a lot of his money by kind of just being the middle of the road, safe bet investor. Coca-Cola, See's Candy, insurance companies. You go back, he highlights those as really being the core of what, projected his career, was just companies that were sound, that were making money, that were going to be set up for long-term success, right? He didn't get all of his net worth on Bitcoin or overnight successes, right? And so that's the one thing I look for him, is to try and keep, that steady path, right? And not always want to be in a rush to get rich overnight. Which it is possible. There are people who have pulled that off with Bitcoins and short squeezes, right? But at the end of the day, a lot of the people on this list have gotten it over an extended period of time, just being patient and staying the course. And that's one thing I really try to live from Warren Buffett's story. Okay, so flipping back to that now, for those of you that don't know, his company now is called Berkshire Hathaway, and you can actually invest in his fund if that's something you want to look into. All right, Sergey Brin. We already talked about him on the Google story of 589 million today, 115 billion. So you look at this, I mean, just look at number 10, Steve Ballmer, 98.5 billion. Microsoft, he was one of the early founders with Bill Gates, right? He actually owns still 4% of the shares, I think I saw, which is pretty significant amount of the company for as long as they've been out. And you look at this top 10, it takes almost $100 billion to crack that list of the richest people in the world. Unbelievable numbers. That has skyrocketed recently. And in a time that's been hard for a lot of people, I think that's the toughest pill to swallow about this list. In 2020, 2021, and even the start of this year where people are struggling, the net worths on this list are just getting absolutely insane. To have almost 10 people over $100 billion. It wasn't that long ago where we had the first people just clips the 100 billion mark. Now we got Musk. Excuse me. Now we have Musk at 268. So net worth of rich people just going nutso this year. But anyway, so that's the remainder of the list. Ballmer from Microsoft. He's also famous now because he owns the Clippers. So he took a lot of his play money and bought the Los Angeles Clippers, the NBA team, and does that on the side now. That's all we had in today's video. Hopefully that was a little entertaining, helpful, insightful, maybe eye-opening. You didn't realize how much money these people were actually worth. I'll link the website from Forbes down in the description. So if you ever want to check, maybe that helps with motivation to see how much money these people are making. Or you never want to hear about it again because it makes you feel bad about yourself. Either way, it'll be down in the description. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, or comment down below. Thanks again, and remember, finance is fun. See ya.